This is ICASTnews.com, live and direct from United Nations headquarters in New York City, USA. And this is Bubbling Under and Bubbling Over. When is an official seeming UN function not a United Nations function? The answer is when it concerns the most heavily fortified, tensest place in the world, the demilitarized zone between North and South Korea, where there is a UN command. But the UN command has nothing to do with the United Nations. It's the U.S. Army's military that guarantees the security of Americans in the demilitarized zone in Panmunjom, Korea, between North Korea and South Korea. It's been in existence since May of 1952, in the middle of the Korean War. And now, the UN command has released remarkable footage showing what happens when one man from North Korea tries to run for freedom across one of the most heavily fortified borders in the world. We see on this, watch this remarkable video shot by a CCT camera, a closed circuit TV camera. It shows a young man, a defector, in an olive drab military jeep going along a tree-lined road into the middle of the small joint security area that's just 2.5 miles wide. It has no borders. It has nothing stopping someone from defecting. When the vehicle doesn't stop, the North Korean guard post starts firing on the man in the vehicle. People with sidearms and rifles pour out of buildings. The Jeep gets stuck near the borderline, near a white concrete marker, barely taller than a brick. The defector being shot at gets out and runs. He is running for his life across one of the most heavily fortified places in the world. 4 North Korean soldiers follow him, one of them lying on the ground, unleash a hail of bullets trying to shoot the man down. In fact, some of these North Koreans went into the neutral territory across the line and were in South Korea. The South Korean sergeants go up and drag him to safety. He's wounded. Now, the U.S. command is protesting that the North Koreans violated the armistice agreements that have been in place since 1953. There has not been a peace accord signed between the North and the South. They're in a state of war suspended animation, pause button, and there are official complaints by the UN command, which is not a United Nations function. It's an American government function. And right now, the American government, which has just put North Korea back on the list of terrorist states, is not doing too well in negotiating or talking to the North Koreans. Meanwhile, the young man seems to have escaped with his life. And he has escaped with something else. As doctors have been patching up his body from bullet holes, they discovered parasites in his guts. One ringworm bigger than a 12-inch ruler, saying something about how the North Korean regime has sacrificed its people's nutrition to fuel its nuclear arms program. That's something that the UN Security Council has been trying to resolve for a couple years here, and is going to probably have to tackle again in December and again as the United Nations moves into a new year of 2018. The most dangerous place on a dangerous continent. And the United Nations is there and it isn't there. It's concerned and it's watching with horror and with some relief that a young defector made it to freedom. We have not seen this kind of crossing of a militarized zone since the Berlin Wall came down in 1989. For ICASTnews.com, live and direct from United Nations headquarters in New York City, watching the Korean Peninsula for Bubbling Under and Bubbling Over, I'm Jonathan Sanders.